Hello. Well, I got my hair cut today. You might not notice, but I notice. I feel more like myself, so that's a good thing. But as I was getting my hair cut in the backyard, my hairstylist, and I had this huge bunch of onions that I had just harvested from my garden. I said to my hairstylist, you might like some of those, but I said, I think I'm gonna flash freeze some of those because I don't think I'll be able to use them or give them all away. And she said, well, how do you flash freeze? And I thought, I'm gonna find out and I'm gonna do it tonight. So she asked, and I thought maybe other people might be interested too. So it's really simple to flash freeze. These are green onions. Now, as I told you, they weren't meant to be green onions. They were meant to be bulb onions, but I didn't properly thin them, so I have lots of green onions, which you can only use so many fresh green onions. So here we go. The first thing you need to do when you flash freeze is to place a piece of parchment paper over a large tray, over a large sheet, okay, that you can freeze. So here's my tray. It's really just a cookie sheet. And here's my parchment paper. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a crease and then put that to the side. I have my onions in my vegetable sink in a little bowl. I put them in the water overnight, so I hope that's okay. They're not too waterlogged. Now I will have to clean them as I cut them because they came out of the ground and I washed them a little bit, but not completely. So I will clean them first and then I will show you what I'm gonna do to flash freeze them. As I clean my onions, I'm actually gonna wear my kitchen gloves because I feel like there's a possibility that I could cut myself because I'm gonna have to cut off all of these pieces here and so they need to be clean like that. So there we go. I'll do that with all of the onions. Well, that was a huge job cleaning all those onions. Yikes. I hope this is worth it. I cleaned them and then I rinsed them again. So they're super clean. And now I'll show you how I'm going to cut them. And this is just for my preference. You might want to do something else. But I am actually going to flash freeze them and package them in two different parts. So I'm going to put all of the sort of white part of the onion here and save that in a bag. And then I'm going to have the green part or the leaves, which which you can use in different things. Sometimes like chives. I'm going to put that on in a separate place and in separate bags because those are also used for different things. Now, I do think that when you freeze these and then unfreeze them, they won't be exactly the same. It will change their composition. And so I think they'll be a little bit softer and probably not, you probably won't want to use them as you would use a fresh green onion. You might use them in soups or maybe in other kinds of dishes that are cooked dishes, but I don't think that they are going to be great as fresh green onions. I'll try it, but I have heard that when they freeze, when they unfreeze, all that moisture has gotten into their little cellular composition and they're a little bit less crisp. So that was certainly true, I will say, of the corn. I had too many ears of corn last season, which was really exciting. And so I froze quite a few of them. I probably froze a dozen or more ears of corn. And when I unfroze them and tried to eat them raw, just sort of after boiling them, they were mushy and not great. In fact, I didn't like them. But in retrospect, they would have been fine in a shepherd's pie or in a chili or something like that. So I think it's probably the same thing with the green onions. So let me get started on this big batch of onions and I'll show you how they look in the pan. All right, so I have all of the white pieces of the onion here. As you can see, I've tried to do them in a single level. And then all of the chive green pieces here. Also, again, these were more harder to do in a single level, but I think I have almost achieved the task. And now I'm going to pop them in the freezer. Here we go. I'm gonna put them in the freezer. I have 2 levels in here, so I'll just use one level for each of these. Let me show you something else that's in here. I'm making frozen meals for my daughter Jenny because she will soon be having a baby, and I know they won't be able to cook dinners very much after the baby's born, immediately after the baby's born. So I'm going to prepare lots of frozen meals for her. So this is pozole. We had pozole tonight. So I have 2 nice bins of pozole for her. All right, here comes the other one. Okay, it says to freeze for 1 to 2 hours. I'm gonna try them at 1 hour and see what happens, and we'll take a look. I'm super excited. The flash freezing worked out really well. I'm gonna show you. I'll show you up close, but here it is. And the great thing is they're frozen, but they're all individual. They're nice and kind of dry and individual, but they're all frozen. Okay, I'm gonna put them in bags, but first I'll show you up close. So here they are, still in the freezer. I have the freezer open, and you can just see they're frozen, but all individually frozen. And down here, again, the white parts of the onion, the rooted parts, still. Oh, lovely. All right, the big experiment is done and dusted. A few tips for the end part of the process. Number 1, the onions unfreeze very quickly. I could already feel them getting moist and unfreezing as I was putting them in the bag. So you've got to do this last step very quickly. Number 2, if you like, I think this is a good idea, to measure out how much you've put in each bag. I put a ½ cup in each bag, so I know that all of them have a ½ cup, and when I want to use them, I'll have them pre-measured. And number 3, air gets into the baggies. This won't happen if you use a plastic container, but they take up a lot more space, and I don't want to use that much space for the onions. So I put them in plastic baggies, and I made sure that all of the air, as much of the air as possible, was out of them as I sealed them. And number 4, and lastly, you should always date things, of course, that you put in your fridge. I'm thinking now that it could have been helpful for me to put ½ cup on them, and I may do that later. But I want to close the freezer door right now to make sure that they continue to freeze because, as I said, they unfreeze very quickly. A successful launch. Now let's just see if they work in recipes. I'm having leftover pozole today for lunch, and I'm using flash frozen green onions from my big expedition last night. There they go. Little more veg, a little bit of taste. Now those are, they're frozen, so I'm going to sort of mix them up a little bit with the warmed up pozole. Let's see how it goes. They're good. I can taste the green onion, held up well. Big success.